SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
FordofCorinth.com is the best place for your best deal on your next new vehicle, with tons of all new 24 models of all types on the lot. Check in on the special deals for Edge, Explorers, Expeditions, and the awesome Bronco Sports. That's FordofCorinth.com.
It's time for True American Heroes for the Record with Jack Rutland. Another exclusive on SuperTalk Mississippi 102.1 FM. Many of our heroes have taken their stories with them to the grave. But this show is about the stories and personal experiences of these veterans.
Well, welcome to part two of just an absolutely outstanding interview that I've had with Mr. Richard Weaver, a World War II veteran who served in Europe, was right up in the middle of the Battle of the Bulge, a paratrooper, a member of the 17th Airborne, and also a member of the 82nd Airborne. And we're going to talk a little bit today about some things, some of his favorite stories. And then we're going to talk a little bit about something that most people don't know about, and that's the occupation of Germany post-war. So we'll share a few funny stories, and I told Mr. Richard I wanted him to give us some insight on what it was really like, because we're talking about a young man who was 18 or 19 years old at that time. Is that correct?
19 at that time.
First time away from home, probably, and here you were on the other side of the world in the middle of a war, and that had to be quite an adjustment. And you were telling me about a story about Christmas Eve. You guys were dropped, but you were flown into the Battle of the Bulge, and you were telling me a story about what it was like for all of your young guys prior to Christmas.
Well, it was Christmas Eve, and we went out. We were told the fog was going to lift on Christmas Day, so the whole division was out at the Quonset huts or whatever, and no lights, Christmas Eve, and they gave us little Bibles. They were about maybe 2 by 2, and they hold the New Testament only. Well, someone struck a match or had a flashlight, thousands of us in that Quonset hut, and read the Gospel of Luke with the birth of Christ. You could hear a pin drop. And all at once, someone started to sing Silent Night, and we all joined in.
My.
Kids, can you imagine kids singing Silent Night like it was never sung before?
That's an incredible story, Mr. Richard. That is an incredible story.
I always get emotional.
That's okay. I'm doing the same thing, just hearing you share that.
When I think about it.
Well, you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old boys that
kids.
Are facing war and facing battle and knowing it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. Yep.
And it makes the reality of the Bible that much more precious, and especially to be able to do it on Christmas Eve right before you guys go into battle, and to have those little Bibles and then to be able to sing together. I bet every heart there was filled with the awareness of what they were about to do.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, we had mixed emotions. We knew that some of us would not spend 2 more days on earth. Maybe a lot of us.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the Battle of the Bulge was horrible. You survived it. You served. You fought through it. You made a major contribution, just as those other thousands of men did. It was a team effort. And your training and everything is what accomplished that.
I've often said, who fights wars? Kids fight wars.
That's right, young people.
But they become men in the blinking of an eye.
In the blink of an eye. Well said. Well said. So the Battle of the Bulge was a real intense battle, but it broke the backs of the Germans, I think. But that didn't mean the war was over. You guys had to push across the Rhine into Germany. Now tell us a little bit about what that was like going into Germany.
Well, there's a big city, Cologne.
Cologne.
And it's right on the Rhine. And we were chasing the Germans and yelling like kids do, men by now. And we came to the Cathedral of Cologne, and we looked up, and there's a gaping hole in the roof of that cathedral. And I was told it took the Germans 700 years to build that.
Wow.
The bomb did not go off.
It went through but didn't explode.
Wow. You talk about a bunch of kids shutting up. We didn't say a word for a long time. We all knew that God said, you're not ruining that church.
No, absolutely.
Yep.
So was there a lot of resistance still from the Germans as you went into Germany?
Most of them were trying to give up. They were running away from what I saw anyhow.
Yeah.
They were running away from the Russians. Everything was so fluid, if you will.
Yes.
We just went. And the Germans, I remember one day, there must have been thousands of them walking this way toward us, and we're going the other way. And we looked at each other and said, nope, there's no one guarding them. We had nobody on them. And they were getting away from the Russians.
They had just given up.
Oh, they hated the Russians, and the Russians didn't like them either.
My goodness. So you went on in. Where were you actually in Germany when the war ended?
In some town called, I think it was Haltern. I'm only 19 or 20. I don't.
You're not reading the signs on the road.
I do recall, for whatever reason, they put me out on a crossroad during the Battle of the Bulge. And General Matthew Ridgway,
Yes.
he had a lot of stars.
He had like 3 or 4.
And they put me out there to salute him and take him to a meeting. And I got there, and they all take off. I go, where are the Germans at? What if he doesn't show up?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, well, he showed up.
A lot of pressure on a 19-year-old.
Yeah, he showed up. He said, I was going to run around and jump in the front. He said, hey, soldier, get in here with me. So,
Neat.
well, I don't know what I said to him or what he said to me. I guess I was sort of dumbfounded.
Well, when you see those many stars, it's kind of intimidating.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so the war ended. Do you remember much about what the reaction was of you guys whenever the word was given to you that the war had ended?
Oh, boy.
A lot of celebrating and hollering?
Oh, yeah. I don't really touch the stuff too much.
Right.
But there's a lot of that, and a lot of guys died from drinking
Too much.
that rot cut.
Good night.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the only way they knew to celebrate, I guess.
I guess. I remember one kid was walking along the meat wagon, ambulance, and feeling his way along to get in. No one helped him, and he was drinking bad beer, rot gut stuff. He didn't make it back home.
Oh, goodness.
He died, yeah.
So you guys, the war is ended, you're in Germany, and now all of a sudden, instead of a combat force, you're an occupation force. Yep. And I understand that you had some really interesting experiences due to some assignments and some things that you saw as a part of the occupying force in Germany after the war.
Well, we ended up in Berlin as the occupational force. We represented the United States, the 82nd, and the French had troops up there, and the British and the Russians. And I can understand, looking back, why we still have problems with Russia. One night, the General Zhukov, the head Russian officer of all of Russia, he was smoking my cigarettes. And
smoking your cigarettes?
Yeah, $250 a carton. I paid $1 a carton. Pretty good profit. Well, anyhow, his secretary could speak 6 languages fluently.
Wow.
And the guy that I was quartered with was dating her. And so therefore she saw what I had.
All the cigarettes.
Well, cigarettes and booze, which I wouldn't drink. I had a 5th of whiskey, a 5th of champagne, and a 5th of cognac. I wouldn't touch that cognac. Terrible. And she brought 2 Russian Air Force officers into my quarters. And they were standing there saluting me. They still had their weapons. We had to give ours up. And they were saluting me, and I went, not a very military way. How much you want for a bottle of cognac? I told her, $100. Boy, they knew, nigh it, no. And I said, well, tell them, take it or leave it. Well, they got $100 out, gave it to me.
Wow.
I threw it back in the corner with the couple thousand I had back in the corner. And 10 minutes later or less, they're back. How about the other bottle? How much you want for that? I said, well, the price didn't come down any.
$100.
Boy, they screamed. Well, they gave me another $100. Drank that, now they're back. Take us down to the Sergeant's Club. I thought, well, maybe this would be interesting. So I called my buddy upstairs, and he said, nope, I'm not going with you. I said, oh, come on. So we go down to the Sergeant's Club. People, like speakeasy days.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Dunn looked through, yeah, Rich, come on in. He opened the door, and he said, are they with you? I said, yeah. Boom. Shut the door in my face. He said, they're not coming in here.
Oh, my.
Didn't want any parts of it. Okay, we go down to the Privates Club. They let us in. And the German girls wouldn't wait on us. They were standing back in the corner. I mean, shaking,
scared of them.
Scared to death of those Russians. And finally I had to get up and go to the guy that was running the show. And I said, how do you get waited on? He said, you mean they didn't wait on you? I said, no. He went over to him, and the tears were running. And he said, go and do what you got to do. They come over with a pitcher of beer, and it was slopping out and crying their eyes out. And so they asked me a couple of questions through her. If you want a car back in your country, can you have a car? I said, yeah. I said, a car back then cost like $600.
Sure.
You know about that, I guess.
Yes, sir.
And, yeah. They started bawling. When we get back to Russia, we're going to change things. I thought, yeah, you're going to crack rocks in Siberia.
Well, we are interviewing Mr. Richard Weaver's his life as a serviceman in World War II, and we're now talking about the occupation of Germany. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and wrap this up. We're doing good. Well, welcome back. We're visiting today with Mr. Richard Weaver, Rich, as his friends call him, a World War II veteran. Has been talking about his experiences as a member of the Airborne Division, the 17th, and then the 82nd, and his Battle of the Bulge experiences and flights, having to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, which I still don't understand. and then he's been sharing with us a little bit about his time in occupied Germany. And I don't know how you pull this one off, but how did you get selected to be the driver for the commander of the 82nd Airborne?
I wasn't a driver.
So what was your role with the general?
I was CQ, charge of quarters.
Oh, okay.
And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the cot snoring away, and somebody shakes me. Soldier, wake up. Soldier, wake up. Well, nobody wakes me up at that time in the morning. I jumped up and said, what the hell are you, what? And looked, here it's General Gavin.
Oh, my goodness. Now, General Gavin, well, I think was either a 3 or a 4-star general.
At 2 at that time.
And he was commander of the 82nd Airborne,
Yep.
And he woke you up.
Yep. I looked at him. And boy, when I realized it was him, I jumped up and stood. I was very much a soldier. He looked at me and laughed. He said, at ease. He said, I got what you should have gotten for waking somebody up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Well, he was a good, everybody loved that man.
So what did he wake you up for?
He needed some information.
Okay. So he just went in your quarters and woke you up.
Yep.
Of course, he could do that if he wanted to. Yeah. So what was your relationship with him ongoing from that point? Did you see him very much?
No. But he gave Captain McDermott the okay to tell me when Captain McDermott wanted me to re-up after I was a civilian.
Right.
And General Gavin said, you can tell Weaver that as long as I'm commanding general, he'll get $50 a month, but he won't have to jump.
Well, that's a deal. Because $50 a month was jump pay, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
But you weren't going to have to jump if you'd re-up.
Yeah.
But you still didn't re-up.
Nope.
Well, I'm sure it was an experience being around the German people after the war. What were they like?
It's really, they thought sure that we were going to incorporate them in to help lick the Russians. I think everybody that knows anything had that type of experience. We got into a little town on a train heading to Berlin, and the people came out and waving. Every one of them had a little American flag.
Wow.
Those little fellas you stick it.
Yeah.
Now, where in the heck did they get them?
That's a good question.
They had them before the war. They didn't make them after the war. And they come out screaming and yelling and laughing. Give us a gun. Give us a gun. We'll help you fight the Russians.
Wow.
And we told them, we're going home.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Absolutely.
And boy, their whole attitude changed. Screaming and bawling and crying, if you will. They were upset. They just knew we were going to, like General Patton, he wanted to fight them.
That's right. And they were terrified of the Russian army.
The lady that kept our barracks clean, she said to me one day, Rich, you never go downtown Berlin. I said, I didn't lose anything down there. I'm not going down. And she said, well, what do you think would have happened if we'd have won the war? The German girls expected out of you. And she said, well, you have a girlfriend back home? I said, yeah, very much so. She said, do you think she would be safe if we won? Very sobering.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So there's one story that we haven't talked about that I got to hear about. I want to hear about this experience you had, and you ended up with a German flag.
And not only a German flag, a German Luger.
Oh, my word, which was a big deal. Everybody was looking for Lugers, which was a sidearm usually worn by officers of the German army.
Oh, yeah, revolver.
That's right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about that experience,
well,
Mr. Rich.
The day that President Roosevelt died, April the 12th, was the 14th? 12th, I believe. My buddy, who was nuts, talked me into getting a Jeep. I'm okay, but he was.
You went along to look out for him, didn't you? You were protecting him.
He said, let's go souvenir hunting. I tell you, more than one boy lost his life.
I've heard some of those.
That.
Yes, sir. I've heard some of those stories.
Well, we were right close to Essen, Germany. That was in the Ruhr Valley. And Essen, that particular town, they made ball bearings. Now, ball bearings keep wars going.
Big deal.
Yep. We leveled it
That's right.
with bombs.
That's right. The Air Force, Army Air Corps bombed the stew out of that town.
Yep. Well, there's a farm outside of it. Wasn't hurt. And we found the farm, and we went in, and he said, you take the upstairs. And I have rank. He didn't have any. I let him get away with it. He said, I'll take the downstairs.
He sent you upstairs.
Step on one of the steps and lose a leg or two.
Right.
And I knew that. Well, it took me a good half hour to get up those steps. I checked everything, tried to make sure that there was no nails taken out.
Or even booby traps.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Sure.
I finally made it upstairs. I looked across the hall, see the flag sticking out of a dresser. It's saying, come on.
Had your name on it?
Come and get me. Yeah. Well, it took me at least 20 minutes to check the floorboards and go over. I wasn't going to pull that flag out. I found a needle and some thread and put very gently, went down the steps, pulled, nothing happened. Oh, okay. So I go up and hear that flag. And I look in the drawer. There's a Luger.
Oh, my.
Beautiful, beautiful. Looked like it never been shot. I said to myself, this is it. This is the boy. He wants me. I looked around and found some thread and very gently put it through the
Trigger guard.
Yeah. And I went downstairs, pulled, I doubled the thread up. Nothing. I got it.
Awesome.
Guess what I did with it? I got to Camp Pall Mall to go over to England, took them back to home. And Captain Hathaway got up. Anyone have anything they did not declare will be court-martialed when we hit England. I got up and it had snowed that night in France. Not much. With my jumpsuit and that revolver inside the jumpsuit, threw it under a culvert.
You didn't bring it home?
Nope.
Oh, my goodness.
Nope. That right now, today, it'd be worth at least $5,000-6,000.
At least.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's it's a big-time collector's item.
Oh, yeah.
But you found the Luger and you found the flag.
Yep.
Those were the only two things you found there.
Yep.
But you brought the flag home.
Yeah, that wasn't nuts. I could have got sentenced with that flag because I didn't declare it.
Well, Mr. Weaver, it's kind of, I'm thinking now, if a Luger and it was a small one, it wasn't a large flag, was it? It makes you think that might have been an officer of the German army that lived in that house.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
You actually had something that he left there because he knew he didn't need to be caught with that.
Yeah.
And you had those two items in your hand. You brought the flag home, and I think, if I understand correctly, it's on display in your daughter and son-in-law's home.
Yep, I gave it to them.
That is absolutely an awesome story.
Yeah.
Well, we have been talking here about a lot of different things I start to say a young man, but from a gentleman that I have just thoroughly enjoyed visiting with. Anything else you want to share with us here? Any other stories that just stand out that you want to share?
Dennis likes the one about our president.
Oh, yeah. Tell
us about the president.
I mentioned President Roosevelt.
Right.
Yeah. Well, overseas, we had a saying, I shouldn't do this. It's derogatory. And, well, anyhow.
Well, if you're not comfortable doing it, I don't want you to.
I won't do it.
Okay.
I'll tell you
after
off the
we
air.
get off the air. Okay.
It's not bad language or anything.
But I understand.
I think you should share it, Paul, for posterity's.
Well, go ahead. Tell us the story.
I hate war.
That's
Eleanor hates war. And I hate Eleanor.
That's pretty good history.
Goodbye.
That's pretty good history.
I got to get out of here.
No, you don't. Listen. We have been honored to have you here, Mr. Weaver.
Thank you.
I'm every time I'm around a veteran, especially from your greatest generation, I stand in awe when I think about what you guys did and what you faced and what you underwent because you were just a bunch of kids, like you said.
Yep.
And I want you to know that on behalf of our country and this community and the people that I know, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your service to your country.
Thank you.
And I'm honored to have you here today. And anytime you get back in this part of Mississippi, we hope you'll come by and we can visit some more.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Richard Weaver.
God bless you all.
82nd Airborne, World War II veteran. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.